Let me ask you a very serious question. If a stranger stood on your front porch and refused to leave, you would probably call the police. But what happens when the stranger on your porch actually is the police? Can they just stand there? Can they look through your windows? Can they camp out until you open the door? The answer might surprise you. My name is Sarah. I have spent years explaining the law to people just like you. And today, we are going to talk about your front porch, because in the eyes of the law, that porch is special. It is not just wood and concrete, it is the first line of defense for your constitutional rights. Let me tell you about a guy named Bob. Bob is a regular guy living in a quiet suburban neighborhood. It is a Tuesday evening, and Bob is in his kitchen making spaghetti for dinner. Suddenly, he hears a loud knock on the door. He wipes his hands on a towel and walks over to the peephole. He looks through, and he sees two police officers. Now, Bob knows he hasn't done anything wrong. He has no warrants, he hasn't committed a crime, and quite frankly, he just wants to eat his dinner in peace. So Bob decides not to answer the door. He figures if they have a warrant, they will kick it down, and if they don't, they will eventually go away. But here's the thing. They don't go away. Bob goes back to the kitchen, but he can still see them through the side window. They're just standing there, talking, looking around. One of them leans over and tries to peer through the blinds. The other one starts shining a flashlight into the living room. Bob starts to panic. He feels trapped in his own home. He wonders if he has to open the door just to make them stop. So, what is actually happening here, legally? To understand this, we have to talk about something called the knock and talk. In the United States, the Supreme Court has said that police officers have the same rights as any other citizen to walk up to your door. Think about it this way. A Girl Scout can walk up to your door to sell cookies, a mail carrier can walk up to your door to deliver a package, and a neighbor can walk up to your door to return a lost dog. Because of this, the law says there is an implied license for the public to approach your home. And since the police are part of the public, they can use that license too. They can walk up, knock on the door, and ask to speak with you. That is the knock and talk. However, and this is the critical part, that license has limits. Imagine if the Girl Scout, after you didn't answer, started walking around your house, looking in your windows, and waiting on your porch for an hour. You would say she's trespassing. Well, the Supreme Court agrees with you. In a famous case called Florida v. Jardines, the court ruled that the police cannot treat your porch as a base of operations. Your porch is considered curtilage. That's a fancy legal word. It means the area immediately surrounding your home. And legally, the curtilage gets almost the same protection as the inside of your house. So let's go back to Bob. When the officers walked up and knocked, they were legal. That was the knock and talk. But when Bob didn't answer and they stayed, they started to cross the line. When they peeked through the blinds, they likely violated the Fourth Amendment. When they lingered for an unreasonable amount of time without a warrant, they were potentially trespassing on his rights. Now, most people make a huge mistake here. They think they have to open the door to tell the cops to leave. That is incorrect. In fact, opening the door can be the worst thing you do, because once you open that door, you give them a line of sight into your home. If they see something suspicious or smell something illegal, they might now have probable cause to enter. And just like that, you gave away your protection. So, how do you handle this? How do you stop them when they refuse to leave? The first step is knowing that you have the power to revoke that license. Remember the implied license I mentioned? It's implied, which means it can be taken away. You can do this in two ways. The first way is verbal. You do not need to open the door. You can speak through the closed door. You can simply say, "I do not wish to speak with you. Please leave my property immediately." Once you clearly tell them to leave, the implied license is gone. If they stay without a warrant and without an emergency reason, they are now likely violating the Fourth Amendment. The second way is by posting signs. Courts have debated how effective no trespassing signs are, but they certainly help establish your intent. A sign at the entrance of your driveway or on your front gate that says no trespassing tells the world that you do not want uninvited guests. It makes it much harder for an officer to argue that he thought he was welcome to linger. But wait, are there exceptions? Of course there are. This is the law, and there are always exceptions. If the police have a warrant signed by a judge, they do not need your permission. They can stay and they can come in. If there's an emergency, like they hear someone screaming for help inside, they can come in. That's called exigent circumstances. Or if they're chasing a fleeing suspect who runs into your house, they can follow him in. That's called hot pursuit. But let's assume none of those things are happening. Let's assume it's just a fishing expedition. They're just digging for information. If you tell them to leave and they refuse, do not physically try to remove them. Never touch a police officer. Never threaten a police officer. That will only land you in jail. Instead, you pull out your phone. Start recording, even through the window if you have to. Narrate what is happening. Say out loud, "I have told these officers to leave. They are refusing to leave my property. I am in fear for my safety." This recording becomes evidence. If they find anything later, your lawyer can use that video to argue that the search was illegal. And if the search was illegal, the evidence gets thrown out. That's called the fruit of the poisonous tree. So, let's summarize the practical takeaways for you. Here is exactly what you need to remember. Takeaway number 1, don't open the door unless you have to. Talk through the door if you must speak. Takeaway number 2, clearly state your refusal. Say, "I do not consent to any searches," and say, "Please leave my property." Takeaway number 3, record everything. Cameras are the best witness you will ever have. Takeaway number 4, if they still don't leave, call your lawyer immediately. Do not engage further. Just wait them out. Remember, your home is your castle. The Fourth Amendment was written specifically to protect you in that castle. Don't let intimidation trick you into giving up your rights. If you found this helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a legal update. I want you to be safe and I want you to be informed. I will see you in the next video.